Yo, yo, what's up? What's up? It's the one and only hip hop gamer, Hot 97, Logitech G, NBA 2K League, Def Jam Records is going down, son. So look, man, you see my shirt, you know what I'm saying? You see the shirt, we talk about that Skelattack. Wait, not only the shirt, I also got the you know what I'm saying? I also got your partner. I got the
I
partner
love
that rock
that,
with
man.
you, you
That
know
is
what I'm
one of my
saying?
favorite things. Yeah.
Word up. Yo, this joint is fire. So I would let my son have this, man. Word up. So look, man, I'm telling you, yo, everybody show your love. You know what I'm saying? Konami's brand manager, my man B. Yo, Brian, what's going on, baby? How you feel, son?
Yeah, and it is always great talking to you, Gerard. I am such a big fan. I always have been. I said that to you earlier. Ever since we first met, gosh, I think 6 years ago.
Yeah,
So,
6 years ago. So Ben,
yeah,
what you been up to, B? Like, you know what I'm saying? Talk to me, man. Like, aside before we get into the actual discussion, like, what you been up to, B? Like, talk to me, man. Just
man,
personally, like things in growth and stuff. What's some of the things that you personally, been up to and working on?
it's been a wild ride. I've been at Konami at this point 7 years, and I started out. I was just working on the web, like the web side, and then I
Yeah.
took over social media. Then became brand manager. I got to launch Bomberman, which was crazy.
Wow.
Right? I
Wow.
got to do all that cool stuff, and then since then I've just been working. I'm a senior brand manager now, and got a lot of titles that I've been working on historically, and a bunch of awesome titles coming up. One of which is Skelattack. So
Got you. So now, real quick, because a lot of people in the, like a lot of the fans and stuff like that, they don't understand how certain things work. So
mhm.
what does that mean? Like being a senior brand manager for Konami, like what does that
Yeah,
actually mean? What's some of your day to day like? Can you share that with us?
yeah, no, I'm happy to share it. So brand management is part of it is marketing, obviously,
Right.
making sure that the game is placed out in the public. But brand is more important than just marketing. Brand is making sure that any given IP is on tone for what the public expects. I do a lot of gameplay testing. I give feedback to
Mm.
devs early on in builds. We'll discuss things even like titles, colors. We'll do market research and focus testing when necessary. Uh, a lot of competitive research, a lot of historic research about our own brands, for example. So, a new game will come up and we'll pull up historic titles around that IP if they exist and make sure that all the characters make sense in context, all the marketing makes sense in context, that we're fully educated about, different aspects of that particular brand and that the new game tends to reflect that way. And we'll give all that advice to the dev teams.
Mm.
And then as the game gets closer to launch, we work really closely with PR and marketing, and we'll do stuff like outreach to content creators, to press, people along those lines, to make sure that the game is covered. We don't,
Yeah.
that's what that is. That's just the easy part. That's marketing. Everybody understands marketing. So
Got
that's
you.
kind of that's brand manager. And then on top of that, I'm social media still. So I work really closely with a bunch of Twitter communities, a bunch of fan communities around, like Bomberman, for example, I mentioned earlier, constant outreach. So
Got you.
cool.
That's
It's a
amazing.
fun
So
job.
so check this out, right? So as a word of advice, right? I have a
Yeah.
program called Gaming and Guidance, right? And I deal with
Yeah.
like so many kids, and there's a lot of kids that want to, grow up, be gamers, be YouTubers, do so many things, but not just kids, like, adults too, like everybody. What's a word of advice you would like give to someone that that would inspire to do what you do, or you just get in the game industry, period? Like whether it's through education, whether it's the relationships, like what's something you would say based on the journey that you had personally that you could share that could possibly help somebody that's trying to get to where you're at?
Sure. Uh, I think there's three big things. The first one is know your value. And by
Ooh,
that, I
like
mean
that.
make yourself valuable. So if you want to be involved in gaming, if you want to be involved really in anything, but specifically in gaming, it's super competitive. So when you walk in the door, you better be able to show that you are more valuable than anyone else around you. And you do that through hard work. You do that through being smart. Sometimes you do it by arguing with people. You got to be able to push back in the right way. You can't just be a yes man, especially in gaming. You got to be able to communicate clearly with people, but know your value, know what you're worth, and let your actions reflect that worth. So if you want to be a brand manager, for instance, I wanted to get in a brand. Like I said, I started way down in just website management, worked my way up. I took on projects. I worked with other brand managers. I said, how can I help you? How can I be available? So that's part of knowing your own value and part of being involved. gaming is really tough. The other way to get into gaming initially is work in other industries close to gaming. You mentioned Logitech. We're good friends with a variety of other companies. We work with Lucid Sound, for example. We've made contacts through Nintendo. I hire people, content creators, sometimes to come work at Konami, et cetera, based on those relationships. So you mentioned networking earlier. If I see that you've done a great job somewhere else, I'm more inclined to bring you to an event. I'm more inclined to invite you to come work on social media with me. And then eventually I'm more inclined to actually bring you in for interviews. And having that resume built up and showing that you've worked in related industries, it doesn't have to be specifically a video game. It can be things that are attached to video games, is also super beneficial to people. So don't ever think to yourself, I have to work at a Konami or a Sega or an Activision. If you worked at a Razer, if you worked at a Logitech, if you worked at a Lucid Sound, those are good business partner relationships as well.
Yo, I'm telling you right now, we haven't even gotten to the game yet, and this interview is fire, V. I love you, man. This is crazy, yo. So now let's get into it, man. The story. I'm big on story and stuff like that. And when you look at Skelattack, it's very unique just from look. Before you even play anything or do anything, just the look is amazing. And what people got to understand is the law of attraction is very important.
Yeah.
Because a game could be great, but if you're not attracted to make you to even come to play it, then all your hard work from a gameplay standpoint don't matter because nobody gonna touch it. So the law of attraction plays a major role. So what's the story of like Skelattack, and break all of that down for me?
The first thing I want to touch on actually is what you mentioned about the look. So I got to give mad credit to David Stanley. He's the guy who initially started this project, and he's both the artist, the initial developer, and that visual style. Yeah, exactly. He worked on it by himself, and then Akuza picked him up and said, "This is incredible." He was working with them as a team, but they liked the project that he'd been working on, and they're like, "Look, man, we're going to bring this in house." It started out as just a concept piece that he was sketching for a whole different game. Like they were just working on ideas. That's how the best ideas come about, right? Yeah. So he sketched it, he worked on it, he did some basic stuff, and they're like, "This has come far enough. We're going to pick this up." And you're right. It's that art style that first grabs you. And then the story itself is well, there's a lot of spoilers actually. So I'm going to stay a little clear from the end of the
No spoilers, no spoilers. Yeah.
But the story itself is it's kind of a lighthearted take on, typically it's I'm a big hero and I'm going to go down, I'm going to smash up all these skeletons and I'm going to, steal treasure. That's more standard. We have seen other games that spin that on its head, and Skelattack wanted to do the same thing. So the idea is that you die and you've been having a pretty good time in the afterlife. And you've got this pretty cool village you're living in. And at some point, you have to come to terms with your history, your past. And so the main character, Scully, it's his time to have his remembrance, which is the term in the game. And conveniently or inconveniently, at that exact moment, the humans come in and start to attack the dungeon again. And he's just a small part of this overall underworld that he lives inside. And he's got this absolutely adorable bat. You showed her earlier, Ember, who follows him around and kind of keeps him in line. And Ember's great. Hers and Scully's, and that's a handcrafted plushie, by the way. Hers and Scully's interactions are, we'll talk about it in a second. Are fantastic. The banter back and forth between them, because they're obviously friends. And that's part of the story too. You watch these two friends work their way through the adversity of the game. And there's some sad parts, there's some happy parts, and the overall game narrative is just sort of woven into really tight gameplay itself. And when I first played it, I was like, well, this is not only is it beautiful, and the controls are really tight. And I'm a platform gamer from the Castlevania behind me over there.
I see. We're gonna talk about a lot of stuff today. Let's go.
But I played platforms my whole life, pretty much. Going back, I'm 30 years. So when I touched it, the controls were great. The storyline immediately attracted me. The characters attracted me, and I thought, this is a great game. And so when the discussion came up, do we pick this title up? Do we help publish this? My answer immediately was absolutely. Let's do it. And then I fortunately got to meet the Akuza team, and they're an incredible group. They had put so much passion into this project. Shane, David, everybody on the team, Doug, even the music is just bumping, right? So
yeah, I love it.
So it was really easy to work with them, and they were fantastic. And the game itself reflects their passion, and that's really, I'm fortunate that I got to work on that title and that Konami got to get involved, because those guys, they deserve 99.9% of the credit for this game.
Yeah, so continuing on, from where we left off, the question that I have for you was about Cuphead, and
Yeah.
Skelattack. That's what we was talking about. So with Skelattack, like to me, just looking at the game and the art style, that alone right there is gonna attract me to make me want to play the game. You know what I'm saying? It's very
Yeah.
unique. And then when you look at Cuphead, I got that same feeling, like a 1920s cartoon or something. I was like, yo, this is crazy. So my question to you is like, you know, what was your what was the thought process on achieving that visual art style? And will we ever see Skelettack in like that Cuphead world as a guest character, or maybe Cuphead entering Skelettack's world for some reason to save him? I don't know. Word up.
Sure. No, I mean, that's a great question about inspiration. I think what we need to circle back to is, again, kind of talking about Yakuza, and especially David, who did all the art. You know, he mentioned specifically he drew inspiration from Tim Burton, for example, like Nightmare Before Christmas, which of course,
Wow. I
which of
love
course
that
games like
movie.
makes sense, right? And then Cuphead draws from those same kind of inspirations. So that's where that whole feel comes from. And David's an incredible artist, and he worked on this project for, I believe it was almost 2 years, just him drawing art and pumping it out. And then Akuza, the rest of the team got involved, and they got into production. So that style, that's all David, that visual style. And then Akuza came in, put the gameplay, put the cool story, all that. Jamal did that incredible soundtrack that everybody loves. So that's really where that whole thing came together. Now, to your other question, which is a great question about crossover and that kind of potential, the best example I have right now is we just did the crossover with Dead by Daylight, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In Silent Hill, right? And then a couple of years ago, when we launched Super Bomberman R on the Switch, we did crossovers with, for instance, Master Chief, and we got the actual voice actor for Master Chief. We got David Hayter to do Snake. Konami in general, we're a global company, and we know our fans love to see our characters work with other characters, that they love our IPs, and that there's lots of other IPs out there that inspire us as well, like Cuphead, like, people have mentioned Ori and Celeste and things like that, because it's the same genre. So I think there's always that opportunity, and it's definitely something we're open to. Just Cuphead specifically, I don't know anything to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing. But we love Skelettack, we love the characters, and we'd love to see that IP work together with other characters, no doubt.
All right, that's dope. Yo, I love the fact that you're even open to it. Like, you know what I'm saying? That right there is crazy, man. So now my next question is, will this game be coming to the Switch? So far I'm seeing PC everywhere. But will this game come to the Switch? I think it'll be a hit on the Switch, bro.
Surprise! It's on the Switch right now, as
Oh,
we
for real?
speak.
For real?
As we speak, yeah.
It's on the Switch right now.
Right now.
Bro, I didn't know that. I thought it was only on PC. I didn't remember seeing it for the Switch.
Switch, PS4, Xbox, Steam. So part of the publishing deal that we worked out with Akuza is they were just working on Steam at the time. They'd been a Steam indie platformer. And part of the value we brought, amongst other things, was that we were like, no, man, this game's incredible, and you're totally spot on. The Switch audience is exactly the kind of people who are going to love playing this game portable, on the go, having a good time with it. It's an incredible platformer. So wish granted.
Yo, that's
Wish
fire.
granted.
So now that brings me to another question. What features like you utilize on the Switch that makes it different from the PC and the console versions and stuff like that? Because obviously I didn't play it on the Switch yet. You know what I'm saying? So is there anything you can share with that?
I mean, the game itself is fundamentally the same, but what I'll
Okay.
tell you from a personal level is, having played on the Switch, the D-pad controls are very unique feeling. People discuss like Super Meat Boy in reference to them, in terms of how tight they are, and the fact that you can wall jump without even using the jump button. You can just toggle left and right, and that feels really nice on the Switch. I know this, especially the portable version, you've got the four buttons instead of an actual D-pad, and you don't have to mess around quite as much with worrying about which direction you hit, because you just tap, 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 tap. It's a very smooth experience. And then, of course, I use the Pro Controller a lot too, and that works just as well with the D-pad. So mostly portability. I mean, we've embraced the Switch from the beginning. Obviously, we were a launch title with Bomberman, so we really find a lot of value in that platform and how passionate the fans are.
Gotcha. Okay. So now I got another set of questions, man. This is about to get real crazy right now. So, one of my favorite series is Ninja Turtles. Ninja
Yeah.
Turtles, bro. And Ed Boon, shout out to Ed Boon and the team at NetherRealms. They had the Ninja Turtles in Mortal Kombat and stuff like
Yep.
that, man. So I gotta ask you, man, from the standpoint of just Ninja Turtles, the license and everything like that, we are on the brink of a new generation. Is there anything that you can share or potential conversations, where we could possibly get like, the return of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time game or something like that, or just anything with the Ninja Turtles, period, bro. I think that'd be crazy, man.
I grew up a fan like you, right? I played the Turtles game on the original Nintendo. I played the arcade game. I think that would be incredible. It's not my area. We just announced this yesterday, the day before. We now have two offices, one in the UK and one in the US, who are going to specialize in outbound conversations like that.
Mm.
It's a fairly new initiative for us. So there's actually going to be dedicated teams to doing stuff like IP licensing, IP work, bringing in new groups like Yakuza. That's where this came from. Is Yakuza came in, Skelattack came in, and so these teams that are being created are going to focus on those kinds of things. So I'm saying to you and myself and all the other fans out there of stuff like TMNT and our other IP
Yeah.
is make your voices heard. Let us know, especially social media. Just let us know what you're interested in, and we're going to go out and part of my job as a brand manager, we discussed it yesterday, is giving that feedback to devs, giving that feedback to teams. So for something like a TMNT, absolutely, I share a passion for it, but I'm going to be one of the last people to know in that respect. It'll come to me, and if any kind of project along those lines, it'll be like, hey man, we're doing this. I'll be like, so it'll be a big
Yeah,
time
got you.
surprise for me, right?
Got you.
And
So
then,
about
and
yeah.
that's yeah. So channel the passion. Let us know. Let the fans, not just you personally, but fans in
Yeah.
general, let us know what you want to hear. I promise you 100%, we actively watch social, we actively watch press, and we take note of that kind of stuff. I can't tell you the number of comments we've copy pasted from different
Wow.
discussions on social media. So it gets noticed. People talk about TMNT among other projects, other IP, and all that stuff goes into a big thing and gets presented on a regular basis. So there you go. That's my personal involvement is very low, but my passion level is super high for it. And
Got
there
you.
are these,
Got you.
yeah.
I love it, man. So now my next question, and this right here, I'm very fascinated with what you in particular will have to say about this, considering your brand manager. So there's a couple of
Right.
questions that I'm gonna have that's targeting your actual title, because
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have fun in this interview. You know how we do, but also I like it to be educational, like as well for
Yeah,
people that's checking it out.
yeah.
So the Unreal 5 engine, I would love to know, if you obviously seen that video running on PlayStation 5. I would love to know your impressions on the Unreal 5 engine, and what um can we like expect, you know what I'm saying, from next generation games, considering you've been in the industry for so long, you've seen so many things change and different things happen, and obviously you have relationships with developers, as well. So I'm pretty sure you hear some of the mumblings that be happening in the industry. What's everybody saying right now, regarding Unreal 5 engine, and what are your thoughts in particular?
Uh, so the Unreal Engine, the actual reveal was incredible. I mean, whether that comes to fruition, we've seen tech demos plenty of times in the future. But Unreal has a track record and a history of being an incredible engine. The prior engine, Unreal 4, obviously dominated the market. Unreal 5 is gorgeous in and of itself. Again, outside of Konami and just my personal opinion, where the industry is going and in terms of the Unreal Engine, from the business side of it, it's watching Epic come in and disrupt the chain, disrupt storefronts, disrupt what they're doing is really, really fascinating. And it's something that we all have to pay attention to. And even the way they're handling licensing around their engine is something we have to pay attention to. And they're making it enticing. They're going out and they're doing the work to try to bring devs in and get involved. And that's always good. It's always good to see competition. You hear that from Sony and Microsoft. They actually mean it, right? Everybody
Yeah.
likes to see competition because it keeps everybody sharp. And that's where the industry is going is that ramped up competition, that my engine better than your engine,
Yeah.
that kind of concept. It's been around a long time, but you start to have to weigh the in-house engine versus something like Unreal, and really think about the value that's being added there. On the Konami side, that's all devs take, and they will sit down and play with all the engines. And they have a good time doing it too, right? and they'll decide what's best for their game. Sometimes it's Unity, sometimes it's Unreal, sometimes it's an in-house, sometimes it's a different license entirely. That's going to be always a dev decision, because at the end of the day, the devs are one who have to build a game, and not all games need an Unreal, and not all games are going to fit into a Unity or something else, like Crytek, for example. So that's always a personal relationship the devs are going to have with those engines, and that's how we have always approached it. That's how most devs are always going to approach it, is what is best for the team, what is best for the game.
Got you. So now, one thing I wanted to ask you, right? And this came to my mind because if you remember back in the day, I think in like the 80s or something like that, they used to have
I'm old enough to remember the 80s. Yeah, I got it. So. Thanks for calling me out.
I like
I appreciate
that. I like how you did that.
Yeah.
So what the question I had was, when you think about back in the day, and they used to have single player like esports, like technically, because they used to battle in Tetris, they used to battle in Donkey Kong, and like all these like single player games and high scores and stuff like that, right? So that's something that I feel like has been missing in the gaming industry, the single player level of competition. Because so many people would say there's no replayability or no replay value in single player games. But to me, I feel like a good game is a good game. I'm always play a good game, single player or not, whatever. So what I wanted to ask you is, Skelattack, is there room for a multiplayer like component to this, or have you thought about ways from a single player standpoint to bring a different level of excitement right here, right now for the modern day gaming industry, whether it's high scores or something like that? Talk to me about that. I think it'd be very interesting with a game like this.
I need you to get out of my head a little bit, because one of the first things we did was reach out to a couple of speedrunners and tell them right off the bat, be like, look, guys, not just games done quick, but just in general, we want you guys' impression of this game. How fast can you beat it? How many lives can you not lose? Can you get it to 0? Can you get it to 1? What level of gameplay are we looking at? And we've publicly at this point, we've said people like Simple Flips, for example, well-known speedrunner. I've got another guy, one cool man. He's doing some speedrunning. These guys are the guys who are going to push the envelope on that. They're the ones who do exactly what you said. They have those thriving communities of the sort of single-player competitive experience. And then, down the line, we'll definitely look at something like a Games Done Quick, and we'll try to be more involved, because this is the type of game that has the talent. If you're good at platforming, if you're good at it, you can really showcase a set of skills with something like this. And it is fun in that respect. How fast, how efficient, how clean can you go? And you're right, a lot of people won't replay the game. But for the people who are watching the people playing, they'll appreciate the talent. And that's what matters, right? Gotcha. The people playing have fun. The people watching have fun watching them. They don't have to replay the game, 4 or 5 times themselves. They can play it once, know the story, but then they can be excited when they see a specific hard jump or a very clean maneuver, or a wall slide double jump into some kind of other maneuver that other people can't pull off. They'll be like, oh, right, shaving those seconds off. So I am looking forward to that, and that's an evolving process, and that's something that I'll try to be involved in going forward with the game, and that the Yakuza team is going to be involved going forward. We're going to keep an eye on game balance, how the game looks, and things along those lines. So we're excited about that, and definitely getting the speedrunners on board early is important, and we'll do some more outreach around that. In fact, if you know anybody, you send them my way, all right?
Oh, word? Yo, say no more. I do know people. Come on, it's me.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? I know people. I know people, son.
Exactly. So, we'll make that happen. We can definitely make that happen.
Yeah, definitely, son. So
make it into a healthy competition.
Yeah, I'm always looking forward to it. That's why I brought it up, because I think that'll be fire. So check this out. I got something crazy for you, son. Crazy for you. So
all right, well, let me just brace myself. I'm braced.
Yo, I'm telling you, son, it's gonna be crazy. So Skelattack, we obviously see what it is, right? And also we see that you like your enemies is humans and stuff like that, going against these humans. How come, or is there an unlockable Grim Reaper in this game? Talk to me.
Oh, well, I mean, you are the, it goes to mythology, right? If a skeleton starts showing up and cutting down your human army, you might think they're the Grim Reaper, right? In a sense, you are the Grim Reaper in the game. It's not a literal sense, but humans, when they tell stories in our past and history, that's where that idea comes from. Inside the game itself, you do run into a character who has a very sort of striking resemblance to someone who might be a Grim Reaper, but
Okay.
it's just it's an NPC you have a conversation with, and he's a very pleasant individual. So the game tries to keep a pretty lighthearted idea, but from a strictly historic perspective, really like imagine you're a human group of humans, and this skeleton shows up with this huge blade and just starts fighting, cutting you down. You're going to say that that's basically
That's
a
the
demon or a Grim
yeah.
Reaper or something along those lines coming to try to destroy you. So some interesting, philosophical discussions we can definitely have there. But the game itself
Okay.
is pretty lighthearted.
Okay, cause in my mind I was like, yo, there should be like an unlockable skin or like just a whole other character that gives me new abilities. Like, I started thinking about so much stuff, bro. Looking at this game, son.
Like our cards, items get taken away kind of concept. Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, it's the Grim Reaper has obviously been in a lot of our games in the past. And again, going back to the crossover conversation, I'd love to see what the potential for Skelattack is in the future. I think we're keeping all of our options open.
Okay, got you. So now I got two like back to back hardcore heavy hitting questions, you know what I'm saying? And the fans is like, yo, if you don't ask these questions, don't come outside even after Corona. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm telling you, like,
Right.
it's serious. So I gotta ask you,
Fans for fans, man. I know what's up.
you know what I'm saying? So now look, Konami has a lot of major franchises. I'm looking at one right behind your head right now. Castlevania. That joint is classic. But along with Castlevania, you already know what it is. You got Silent Hill out there. There's a lot of games. I even like the soccer game that y'all have, even though y'all compete directly with FIFA. But y'all got franchises, IP. Y'all have a lot.
Yeah.
With the next generation coming up, let's just keep it real. You know, there was a huge resurgence of fans going crazy over the potential of Silent Hill coming back in a big way, not just the Dead by Daylight way, but a big way in its own right. Like, how realistic is it that we'll get these great franchises that Konami is known for? How realistic are we going to get these back in the next generation?
You know, I know you have to ask the question. Uh, I would say that Konami as a company has been committed to console gaming and our IP for a very, very long time, for 50 years at this point. So it's a question that we have to ask ourselves all the time. And specific IP, I can't make a comment about. I mean, it's just not a thing that I'm going to be able to comment on. But in general, I will say there are passionate people who understand both the fans and what they're asking for, and our history as a company. And none of our IP, even none of them, not the Hudson, not the Konami, none of those IP have been forgotten or put aside. And I think that people just need to understand that no game, no IP that isn't being active, that doesn't mean it's gone. It's just not active. And that's not the same thing as forgotten. It's just everything, especially with you were saying how beautiful and wonderful these games are, games I grew up with personally. Castlevania 3 behind me, that beautiful black poster that Mondo
Yeah,
gave
man.
us. Yeah, those are the games that made me inspired when I was a kid, and then I worked at Konami. No one has forgotten those. None of that is gone. How we treat them, how they go forward, those are the kind of discussions that happen all the time. As for next gen, it's a super groundbreaking, changing point. It always is in the industry. And very smart people, smarter than me, are having those discussions, and we'll always be having those discussions. And so, in that respect, I trust the people in charge to make the right choices for our IPs and to think about what the fans want and try to push our IPs in a positive way going forward.
That I gotta clap it up for that one. So that was so like perfectly, beautifully well said, man. I respect it, man. And listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, as a fan, as a friend, as a journalist, as everything that makes me me, man, we want it, man. We want that to come
Yeah.
back, man. PT blew us away, man. PT blew us away, and we want that game. We want that,
And
man. So
and again, making it's cliche, but it's true. Making your voices known, and I'm not, positive feedback, negative feedback, neutral feedback. It all goes into the same sort of bucket.
right.
We read it, we pay attention to it. Making your voices known, social media, gaming, etc. It goes back to what I was saying about TMNT. That reminds everyone of how passionate people are, and that's what you guys can do. And then on our end, again, we respect the IP and we'll do our very best to represent the fans on the inside and showcase your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions to the people making decisions. And that's all we can do on our side from the brand side is just tell the story of look how passionate the fans are. So we use you guys to represent your points of views in the meetings and in the boardrooms for all the games, for all the IP, everything from Bloody Roar to Suikoden to Silent Hill, all the titles that you mentioned, Castlevania. It doesn't matter, right?
Thank you. So now my next question, and this goes back to your skill set. And before I even ask the question, I want to tell you, man, like you're great at what you do, B. For real. Like even just on this interview, you're great at what you do because you know from a brand manager standpoint, you know how to properly represent the company while also understanding the passion of the fans because you are both, even though you're in between them. And I love
you're buttering me up. You're buttering me up. It's okay though.
Let me find out you know my skills. So
I'm saying you hit me with a really hard question and then you follow up with butter. I mean, I'm not the only one who knows what they're doing here. All right, let's be realistic. All right.
I'm so serious because like I appreciate that because you have a lot of people that don't know how to maneuver and know how to adjust and do certain things because you may have a person that's a brand manager, but they're not a gamer at all. They just got the title. Right. And then you got people they're hardcore gamers, but have no sense of business. Right. So how did you get this job? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's great to see you in the position that you're in. You know what I mean? So I applaud you on that. Now for the question and stuff like that, right? How and I'm starting to see it now, even with the mention of Silent Hill and the way the industry is excited all over again. So Konami, the relationship between the consumer and Konami was bad for a while because of the Kojima situation. And you being a brand manager, I can imagine what that turmoil could be like behind the scenes, trying to this is a legacy company. It's global, it's Konami, but we can't let it go because of this moment. Regardless of who's right or wrong, we still got a job to do and we got fans to serve. With our work and our craft. How do you make sure you take your team and keep them focused on what's important, even through a storm like that, to be able to have everybody going crazy over the Dead by Daylight announcement and everybody wanting this and wanting that, even with the questions that I'm asking on the fans' behalf? It's like you guys is like turning it around like that. And I know a lot of that weighs on you as the brand manager. Can you talk through that? Because I think that's a very important lesson to share.
I think it's definitely a leadership skill in its own right, in so much as I'm a firm believer in transparency. And I'm talking internally at this point. Obviously, when speaking to yourself, press, fans, we keep lots of secrets because we have to. It's just the nature of the work. But internally, letting people know where we're at, what we're doing, what plans are 2-year, 5-year, however long the plans are, whatever those are, that goes to leadership. And then I have to trust the people above me to be good leaders. If I trust the people above me to be good leaders, which I do, love my bosses and the people I work with, then I'm comfortable working with the people around me and I can feel comfortable going forward, irrelevant to the storm, irrelevant to the outside noise, and irrelevant to everything else. That level of trust is something that's built over time, and we're a stronger team for it. Especially the U.S. office. I don't work in Japan, so I can't speak to Japan, although I know I work with them, and I, again, trust them and love them as well. Right. Same with the UK office. I don't physically work there, but I trust them and love them as well. But in the U.S. office itself, where I do work and I can speak to, we all communicate all the time. We're all proactive about being involved in what other people are doing. I know what PR is up to. I know what brand marketing is up to. I know what licensing is up to. I know what teams that aren't even my team are working on, just because I need to know the context of what's going on, because we all try to be transparent. And that's something that took time to build, but it's valuable and it's there. And that's how we weather any given situation. It doesn't matter what example you give us. We have to be able to talk and trust one another to do our jobs. to be able to move forward. And so on my part, that's where my value for transparency is. I let people know my thoughts. I'm candid. Sometimes even one would argue kind of rude, but I believe that you need to be clear in what you say, and I believe that you need to be clear in what our goals and our paths are. And at the end of the day, if we can all align and we can find that path, you can walk the path with a storm all the way around you.
Yo, Ben, I'm telling you right now, like whatever is the next position of where you're at, you're about to be promoted after this interview. Like
Yeah,
you're about to
right,
be,
right.
you're about to be promoted to a whole nother. Yo, the way you breaking it down, son, is crazy, man. And like I salute you, bro. I love it, man. Like I'm dead serious. This is golden, like gems that you're dropping right now, bro. Like
I think
this is
people,
crazy, man.
I always try. I mean, like I work in gaming, and I appreciate your compliment, but I'm serious. I talk to people when I can. I always give advice. If people DM or reach out to me, I always try to be honest with them. And I learned it from other people. So I appreciate you complimenting me, but I've had really good bosses and I've had really good mentors myself. And I always try to pass that on. And so our whole world would be better if we all just tried to listen to what other people say and then try to be honest with each other in meaningful ways. And that makes everyone's life better. So that's not just workplace, that's just
That's just
and
life. Yeah.
that's just life. Yeah.
Yo, that's amazing. So I got 3 more questions for you.
Okay.
All hitting questions, and then I'll let you go, bro.
All right.
Okay. So first, check this out, right? There's been a lot of talk, especially with this generation, where companies is either buying up companies or buying up IPs or looking to do exclusive deals and relationships and stuff like that. Konami, as big as y'all are, you know what I'm saying, a global company that y'all are. And I spoke with Michael Pachter about this not too long ago as well. Would y'all be open to a deal like that? Like if Sony came to y'all and said, "Yo, with the launch of PlayStation 5, how you doing?"
Yeah, you heard me. Finally, you do. You got a little background baby going
No,
on.
that's all right. I had to say hi. You know what I'm saying? So, with what PlayStation is doing, or even with Microsoft getting Ninja Theory, all the getting up studios and stuff like that, are y'all open to doing things like that with certain companies? If they came to y'all and said, "Hey, look, we really love this IP. Can we do an exclusive for PlayStation where Bloody Raw comes to PlayStation exclusively?" Like what I'm saying, or something like that.
Yeah.
Are y'all open to doing those things? If so, has any like conversations or anything like that has happened to where potentially one of the great IPs that Konami has can be in partnership with one of these next generation consoles going forward? Because that's something that a lot of people was talking about. So I would love to hear from you. What you think about that, and how does that help a company like Konami doing deals like that with partners?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is you need to get an interview with Mike Arena. So Mike is the person I mentioned earlier who's taking over that apartment in the U.S., whose focus is on partnerships, licensing, IP management, that kind of conversation. That's literally what he is now doing. That's an official new position that we announced.
Right? You gotta set that up for the next interview.
Right. So that's his role. That's his goal, is building our brands, building partnerships. There's no need to attach a company's name to that. It could be, again, I'm going to cite Skelattack. It's Yakuza all the way to Sony, all the way to whoever, right? We talked about Epic earlier.
Yeah.
Business partnerships, IPs, all of that are conversations that Konami is a global company, and that's what Mike is going to be focusing on, is having those conversations. Since it's a brand new division, literally, like brand new, as I mentioned, I think we announced it yesterday or the day before yesterday, that's my extent of knowledge on it, right? Because it didn't exist prior to, that's what I know about it, is I've been told, again, going back to transparency internally, this is what their goals are. I love it. I'm fired up for it. I'm going to support him 110%. If he comes to me and they come to me and they're like, "Hey, we want to do a cool project with XYZ," and be like, "Yeah, what can I do? Let's get involved, right? Let's get involved. Let's make this happen." So, yeah, I would say your next steps for the actual answers or for an extended conversation around that, talk to Alex, talk to PR, try to talk to Mike,
Yeah.
and he can give a lot more perspective on what he's doing out of the U.S. office. And then they've got one as well in the U.K. office doing very similar with Richard Jones.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of interviews floating around actually today that I've seen with Rich. So those two guys are going to be the ones you're going to want to talk to because they're the ones going to be sort of leading that charge into the future. And that's great. More power to them. We all got to do our jobs. My job's in the here and now. Their job's in the future. I love it. And again, I hope and foresee great things for what they're trying to pull off because they're incredible individuals.
Absolutely. So now my next question is, what can we expect throughout, when the summer, officially hits? Can we expect at some point this summer, like a Konami event where y'all want to show off some of the new things or the new titles that y'all working on behind the scenes? The reason why I asked that because I know EA is doing one. I think Square may have one, and like a lot of companies, they're just like doing their own thing because obviously E3 is not happening this year, so they
Right.
have and like with Jeff Keighley got his summer games, and IGN got this, and Games Radar got that. So can we expect to see anything from Konami in the summertime where y'all would make an announcement or do a world premiere of a game title that gearing up for the fans this year?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I love to talk, so I really hope so because I would get to stand up and talk on stages and just nonstop for like 25 minutes. Fans would love that, right? No gameplay, just me talking. No, but in all seriousness, that kind of conversation, again, those partnerships, that idea, that is something that we align internally. It takes a lot of planning. We have to speak to all the different dev teams. Development, one of the things that's often lost is how long development takes. It can be 3 years for 5 years for a AAA game to really reach a point where you're willing to talk about indie things. So I don't want to ever put words in any of my developers' mouths. If we can do something amazing like that this year, next year, the year after that, get back to the Konami Directs. I remember them from when I first got here. I think it'd be incredibly fun, and I think it'd be a great way to connect with the fans. So I'm in favor of the idea of it, just because again, I love to talk and I love to, it's fine. I think it'd be a great time. But in terms of like saying, are we going to do a thing? Again, I'm never going to speak for the devs. I'm never going to speak outside of my lane.
Right.
I am here to be as helpful and support to them. I would love that idea, but I can't say, yes, we're going to do it. No, we're not going to do it. That's not me to make that decision. That's going to be something that's going to be done at a higher level than me. And then again, if that does happen, A, I'm going to make sure you get a VIP invite. B, I hope I'm on stage. I hope I'm on stage. And, from there, we can have a really good time with it. So, again, this year, next year, 2 years, 3 years from now, who knows? That's not a roadmap that I'm going to be directly involved with until they walk in the door and say, plan a thing, do a thing, talk about a thing. Personally, I got to do the Frogger event. I don't know if you saw that with Apple.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wait, that was your idea? Like,
No, that wasn't my idea. So I got to be the speaker, though.
Yeah, right.
I was the person who stood on the stage. My turnaround time on that was fairly short. It was not a lot of time for me to come and get involved in that process because, again, they rely on me. They know that I can do certain things. This is what I do. So planned, organized, set up, and then boom, let's go get Ben, and he's going to go take care of that. That's where I start to come into the game. And so, again, I think it'd be awesome. I look forward to it. Gotcha. You and I'll have a cocktail.
Yep.
But there's nothing I can tell you for certain about it.
Got you. So now, for the last question is, when it comes to Skelattack, is this a franchise or y'all just throwing it out there, see what people think about it, and see if they want more?
So it's our IP. We are working with Yakuza directly as a team, but when we onboarded them, we actually have the IP. So that makes it a franchise in and of itself, and it's a game and an art style that we love. And what we would like to see is fans love it as much as we do. And what we'd like to, of course, see is them support Yakuza and how much passion the Yakuza team put into it. Because, and I mentioned to you on the prior call before we got interrupted, 99.9% them and the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into Skelattack and to make it the incredible game that it is. And it's one of those games I hope that does become a thing for years to come where somebody can point it and be like, this was the beginning of something cool. and I think that we all sort of feel that way. I think there's a lot of potential in the IP and the brand. So I'm excited
Yo,
about it. I think
bro,
it's going to be a great game.
bro, this interview was fire, son. Like, thank you so much, yo, Ben. I'm telling you, God bless you, love you, and I appreciate you and respect what you do, man. I'm so
No,
serious, man.
I have to be serious too. I appreciate and respect what you do in equal measure. We met, like I mentioned, many years ago. Your fire, your honesty, your passion, how you carry yourself, the respect that you give to the people around you, and the respect that you get from the people around you is incredible. We need more people like you in the industry, and I hope you keep doing what you're doing for years to come, my friend, because you are everything that I love to talk to and work with when it comes down to these situations. So thank you for being you.
Yo, dude, thank you so much, man. It's an honor to hear, especially coming from you, man. And listen, whatever it is that you got going on, that you, if you feel you need help somewhere or whatever, yo, I got you. Like
Hey,
I'm dead serious, man. I help out a lot of people. It'll be an honor to work with you and do some cool
same
stuff,
with you,
man.
man. If you're in LA, I will cook you the best steak in my backyard if you're just
Oh,
dropping midtown.
the moment America opens back up, oh, we gonna
Oh,
have some fun.
come on, dude. Come out. I'm
I
dead serious.
can't.
We'll have margaritas. We'll have steaks. We'll just chill in the backyard. I got this. I've been living in a nice little bungalow, kind of tucked back.
Yo,
It's
oh man,
great.
see, yo, I can't wait, man. So look,
You can
God
meet the
bless you,
kids. You
man.
can meet the wife. It's all good, man.
Yo, that's gonna be dope. I'm looking forward to it, man. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So,
You're always welcome in my casa.
so look, man. I'm gonna tell y'all, man. Skelattack is out now. Please pick it up. Please
On
check
the
it out.
Switch.
Oh yeah, on the Switch. It's on the Switch as well. So make sure y'all check out Skelattack on the Switch, PC, PlayStation, Xbox. It's crazy right now. This has been senior brand manager, correct?
Senior brand manager. Yeah.
Senior brand manager of Konami, man. Respect it. And anybody that's watching, this episode, they want to get involved in gaming, or maybe you feel like you can't do it. Don't think like that. There's a lot of people out here that's willing to lend their energy to see the next generation come up and do the things that they're doing too. So just reach out, hit me up. We can
Absolutely.
make things happen. Ben, yo, you're a class act as always, bro. God bless you, man. Now
It's
look,
my pleasure.
do you have anything you want to say to the fans before we get out of here?
No, I just want to give one more shout out to Yakuza. Those guys are amazing, and I hope that you get to meet them. They've done PAXs and they've done things like that in the past. But Doug, Jamal, David, Shane, all those guys, some of the best people. And again,
I gotta interview them
what are you
too
doing
now.
about that?
I gotta
Yeah, you
interview
to
them
do it,
too
do it,
now,
yeah,
man.
do it, do it. They
Yo,
are fantastic guys.
oh
It just
man.
really, really, it's so fun and humbling to see how hard they worked, and that's that whole indie thing. But I can't stress enough how great those guys are. So that's my shout out is to those guys. Go give them love. I don't need love. Go give Yakuza love.
Yo, shout out to the Yakuza team. Much love to y'all. It's your boy Hip
Yep.
Hop Gamer. Yeah. Now look, man, we about to sign out. So we got Def Jam Records, NBA 2K League, Logitech G, as you see, Logitech G on your Hot 97 every day. That's my word. All day. We out of here, man. One love and God bless. Peace.